Well, welcome back, and our next guest, we've had him before and on several occasions, and quite frankly, it is an honor to get him because he is so wanted in the media, and his name is Dr. Jerome Corsi. He's a senior staff reporter for online news there at the giant WorldNetDaily. He's the author of the #1 New York best-selling nonfiction best-selling book, Unfit for Command. Of course, the Swiftboat veterans speak out against John Kerry, and he also authored The Abomination, Leftist Politics and the Cult of Personality. Well, his latest book is entitled What Went Wrong? And the inside story of the GOP of 2012 and how it can be avoided the next time. And Dr. Corsi has well researched this, and he comes with incredible credentials as well. And as soon as we get the Skype hooked up here, we'll bring him in here in just a second. For those who are interested in getting the book, check it out. It's put out by WorldNetDaily Books, and you can check that out at WND Books, or check it out Amazon or Barnes & Noble, and get a copy of it called What Went Wrong? The Inside Story of the GOP Debacle of 2012. Dr. Corsi, thank you, my friend. Nice to have you back. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm here at the National Archives in College Park. So I'm researching on another book. So, I'm delighted to speak with you about this one. I hope the reception's okay.
Yeah, you're doing great. Thank you so much. I really value our time together and your wisdom in all of this. I'm glad you finally wrote the book because from what I tell, and I haven't gotten all the way through yet, but for what I've quickly observed, you really did uncover the problem of 2012 and what went wrong. I don't know, quite frankly, if the GOP is going to pay any attention to this. I hope they do. But in essence, what do you think the big problem was with the GOP in 2012?
Well, there's several. As I point out in the book, the first recognition, the Obama people won the election. I mean, there's a lot of people want to excuse it to voter fraud, and I discuss voter fraud did happen. And you've got to realize on the last day of the campaign, I was with Romney for 3 weeks as traveling press. We're flying back to Boston, and Romney comes back to the press section in the airplane. And he said he thought he was going to win, and he had not even written an acceptance or a concession speech because he figured he wasn't going to need one. Well, I talked to Stuart Stevens, who is one of the top advisors on the airplane, and top advisors, strategist for the campaign. Stevens said, "Well, a good message beats a ground game every time." And I thought, no. I said, you guys don't understand, the Republican Party doesn't understand that with Obama you're dealing with a game changer. This is a whole new kind of presidential politics we've never seen in this country. That's going to be a major recognition of a difference. Now, unless people realize that, you're not going to win elections. That's the problem. You've got to realize that these people, the Republicans, are up against some very, very tough, some very sophisticated, some very good opposition. Now, I'm going to have to do one thing really quickly here. I'm going to have to run and get my adapter because I'm running out of batteries. So I have to put this down for 2 minutes, run in and get it. It's at the archive. I'll be right back.
Well, that tells you how live we are today. I think there's another part to this equation, too, that is so interesting. Most research will tell you, and I think even Dr. Corsi will agree with this, some of the battles of 2012 were clearly generational as it relates to digital technology. I want to get into that. As you know, the Obama team was well plugged into social media, well plugged into the digital technology of cell phones and tablets, which played a huge part on getting their message out and getting their out to vote turnout. And they were well plugged into that. The other part is that I think that Dr. Corsi points out in his book is that the Republican establishment, and let me speak to this as clearly as I can as former chairman of the Oregon Republican Party. I was chairman of the Oregon Republican Party statewide for 4 years. And I learned some things, a lot of things. And I did realize quickly that there is a old guard Republican establishment that is somewhat at odds with a more conservative based establishment within the field and within the system, and they clash. And there's a biblical principle here that says a house divided against itself cannot stand. And I think that clash very much still exists today. And so I want to talk to Dr. Corsi about that as well. But I think that part of this defeat, if we can put it that way, and it clearly was a generational ability to communicate to younger people as well. You're back. Do we have you plugged in yet?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I am all set now. I had to get the, I had to run in and get my adapter, or the computer was going to run out of the
You know, this is authentic television, so I appreciate it. Thank you, Dr. Corsi. All right, I want to come back to one thing I was just talking while you ran away there for a few moments. How much of this difference and the game changer was generational? In other words, Obama seemed to tap into social media, the digital technology, and get his message out, and versus Romney, which was kind of maybe caught up in the mire of the Republican establishment. How much of this was generational?
I think a great deal of it. I think you're dealing with, people want to brush off Obama, want to say that Obama is, a fluke, or Obama's the future of politics. You've got a celebrity in Obama who knows how to be a celebrity, but the people behind him, I'm a professional political scientist. I have a PhD from Harvard in political science. I've studied voting behavior for decades. These advisors, communications advisors, political science, computer intelligence guys, they're very smart, they're very well funded, they're very young, and they know what they're doing. And they've changed the game. A couple different ways. I'm going to start out here. When Obama talked to you as a potential voter, given the ability to run massive data sets and micro-target, in other words, the Obama people could figure out who you were from your credit card receipts and your social networking or any data they can get on you. When they sent you an email, the email felt like they were communicating with you personally. Mm-hmm. They knew the message was tailored. And you were involved. Now, when Romney communicated with voters, it was just the usual old stuff you threw away in the wastebasket because there was no personalization to it.
Oh, boy.
And by personalization, I meant, okay, if you were a single woman, you got the message about reproductive rights. You got talked about your situation. If you were a young student coming out of college, you got talked to about jobs. You got talked to about your education. Obama made you feel like he understood your problems, even if it was someone in Chicago writing that letter. He had profiled you, had run statistical tests on which letter and which phrasing gets more response. And when they were in the field getting the vote out, you had not just go get the vote, but you had somebody show up at your door with an iPad interviewing you for Obama, taking all this information in and being able to record your responses into a database.
Wow.
I mean, that was not being done by the Romney people.
Let me take a quick break. Let me take a quick break here, Dr. Corsi. Sorry to do that, but when we come back, you're hitting on the very thing that I want to talk about, because we've learned through generational science here in media research, one thing that the Democrats do very well, and we media people need to understand as well as the GOP, you got to go through the heart to get to the head. You can't go through the head to get to the heart. And the Democrats have that down really good. And I want you to comment on that when we come back. Okay, we're back, and really honored to have back with us today Dr. Jerome Corsi. He's authored his new book, What Went Wrong? The Inside Story of the GOP Debacle of 2012 and How It Can Be Avoided Next Time. Let me tell you, this book, he's written a lot of books, but for this one has really piqued my personal interest because we do a lot of research on generational science and neural marketing here at theDove, both radio and television. And I think he has hit the nail right on the head when it comes to understanding how to engage people emotionally and what went wrong. And Dr. Corsi, as we broke away, I asked you the question, or at least made the comment, that it appears that one thing that the liberals have down very, very well is the ability to connect first through the heart to engage the brain, while the Republicans think by engaging the brain they'll engage the heart. And nothing could be further from the truth.
Well, I think you're exactly right. I mean, the emotional appeal of what the Democrats are doing, of course, it's predicated on knowing who you are. Now, there has to be a lot of research into understanding that you communicate with someone who is a single woman with children very differently than a college student, very differently than African American or Hispanic. And the Democrats have put a lot of research, a lot of social science, psychological research into understanding these groups and then patterning them. I mean, most people don't understand. These are the same people who are doing the National Security Administration, you know, who are recording every car, every license plate in America into a micro database. You've got top experts from Google, Silicon Valley, and the Republican Party will make a mistake to think this is just a bunch of geeks. These are, you know, very well funded, backed by people who are billionaires. They have all the money they need. With the computer technology and ability to utilize intelligent systems. See, it's not just running a computer. It's the ability to use a computer to do predictions, to understand how someone thinks, to get inside their head. And the Democrats are able to do that. And this transforms the politics because you take the Franklin Roosevelt interest group era politics, you take the same approach, interest group politics, but you apply it with new age technology and communications ability. And I want to point out something. For instance, right now today, Obama's race baiting on Trayvon Martin.
Right.
Okay. Now, Eric Holder knows there's no chance that they can do a civil rights prosecution. The law is not written for.
Right.
They have to prove racial malice, and they're not. Zimmerman should have gotten off, but that's not why Obama's doing this. Obama's doing this to rile up his base. He's doing this to get the African Americans in the streets, to make them feel he understands them, that he communicates with them. It's a psychological technique. Truthfully, Obama's delivered very little to African Americans. You know, there's highest unemployment ever among blacks. Take a look at Detroit, it's bankrupt. The record of the administration is dismal. But you've got 96% of all the blacks voting for Obama. And it's on identity politics and interest group politics. And it keys on the ability for African Americans to say, Barack Obama's one of me. I'm the same as him.
Right. Yeah, I think you said that very, very well. Let me ask you this, moving this along quickly here before we run out of time. Do you, anywhere along the line, since you were in the back of the plane with Romney, did they begin to sense that their messaging was falling short?
Well, it's, you know, you get on the campaign airplane and you're, first of all, in a bubble. You're following the campaign around. You're watching the big crowds. You're listening to what they're saying. And the campaign today isn't where the action is. You know, Romney had great crowds, but he had them in rural Ohio. Well, he was going to get the voters there. Where the Democrats said, okay, to win Ohio, we need 50,000 more African-American votes in Cuyahoga County. And we can get them by voter fraud. We can get them by busing these people in. We can get them by really finding 50,000 more that want to go vote for Obama. So they had a whole army of people. They weren't spending any time out, you know, in Zanesville in Ohio and the rural areas. They were in Columbus. They were in Cincinnati, the Obama people, targeting the voters they needed and going after them. They played this by the numbers. Obama knew he needed about 8 states. The swing states, he won 7 of them, and he did it the same each way. Florida, they knew they needed 50,000 more voters out of Dade County, out of Broward County, and out of the panhandle of the state. And they figured out how to get them. It's a numbers game played by very sophisticated people who know interest group politics.
Can the conservatives win against this emotional tsunami when those messages don't necessarily seem to hit the heart? In other words, it appears that what the liberals have done by not only having all of these entitlement programs and what the government can do for you, the pushback from the conservative base, which happened in 2010, we saw it with the turnover there in the House of Representatives. But is that good enough? I mean, what can the GOP do, especially if the establishment, those who are now still running the party, are of the old school?
Well, first of all, I dedicated the book to Phyllis Schlafly. And Phyllis wrote a book in the 60s, A Choice, Not an Echo.
Right.
Because you had then the Rockefeller wing of the Republican Party was pushing the Republicans to the center. First point I want to make is a Me Too Republican isn't going to win.
Right.
The people who stayed home were not the evangelicals. They voted for Romney. It was the conservatives, the Tea Party groups, who said, what's the difference between Romney and Obama? So first of all, we got to get a real conservative. And secondly, one with the conviction, to know what the Democrats are doing. Democrats framed Romney, psychological technique. They said he was Bain Capital, he fired workers, he stripped companies, he made money. And Romney let them do that. Day one, Democrats start running those commercials. Romney's got to say, you're lying. He's got to get out and say, that's not the truth. This is what I did. I created jobs. He's got to say, any place they run these ads, I'm going to sue them. Identity politics. Okay, single women. Got to have straight talk. You say, wait a minute, we care about reproductive rights. What are you guys talking about? An 18-cent condom? You want public welfare to give you an 18-cent condom? So that's not what this is about. This is about responsibility. It's about, bringing children in the world, the rights of the unborn, and the rights of the mother. Besides, these interest groups are going to fight with each other. It happened in the 60s. The jobs that the Hispanics think they're going to get undermine the jobs that African Americans and other low-income workers want. Pretty soon you begin to have the groups fighting amongst each other. Politics where you promise, I'm going to give everything to you because you're black or because you're Hispanic, only works so long. After a while, those promises are empty and you run out of money. Mm-hmm. And the Republicans got to be ready to pounce on that. Say, independence does not mean your government check. Add up all your government checks together. You're selling yourself out for $50,000 a year. Is that what you really want to do with your future? No job, no family, no children, drugs, and a government check. Is that your life?
How much was Romney managed by the establishment versus his own in running himself as an individual and a successful businessman?
Romney listened to his advisors. His advisors were all centrists. Stuart Stevens, he did what they told him. Figured they knew what they were doing. Karl Rove ought to be parked. The time's past Karl Rove. He doesn't know what he's doing anymore. Mm-hmm. He didn't elect a single candidate. He's just getting rich now. Time to unplug Karl Rove. Bad advice. The Republican Party moving to the center. Look, Marco Rubio's just destroyed his career. Why? Because he pandered to Hispanics.
I was just going to ask you that. Is Marco Rubio done? Did he shoot himself in the foot or a vital organ?
I think he shot himself in the head.
Yeah.
I think he's had it. He'll never recover from this. Because he pandered. You can't pander. If you're the Democrats, you can say, look, I'll give you all these benefits. I'll make sure you get them. It works for a while. Pretty soon, people take a look at what they're getting, and you're saying this $18 Obama phone is the reason I voted for the guy? Well, they just unplugged my Obama phone. They just unplugged my food stamp program.
Yeah.
You really want to live on food stamps the rest of your life? I mean, is that your highest aspiration? We've got to begin to talk to people like this, because certainly the new generation, kids who are finished college with all these student loans, don't want to be heard that their future is food stamps and Obama phones.
It appears that the Obama administration, at least within the last year or so, with all the debacles that are going on, especially with the IRS now, Benghazi, and with the Department of Justice, I mean, the list just is endless, that they're handing the GOP the perfect narrative. But can we trust the GOP to manage it?
Fighting with the GOP is like fighting with a one-armed guy, and that one arm's tied behind his back. I mean, these GOP guys don't fight back. What Obama's doing in race baiting Trayvon Martin is not only whipping up his base, he's taking all these stories off the news. And don't think for a minute the White House doesn't know what it's doing. White House is managing the news. They're playing the mainstream media like a fiddle. They know exactly how to get them whipped up. Trayvon Martin and all this race whooping is not by accident. Under Obama, we've got the most divisive society we've ever had. I point that out in what went wrong. When you get to the end of the book, I start talking about how all these different interest groups fight against each other. You know,
right.
You're a kid coming out of college. You think your parents who are, you know,
right.
Baby boomers in their retirement are going to want you back home. How's anybody going to pay for anybody? And that's the issue. If the baby boomers are on Social Security, dependent on that, and the kids don't have jobs coming out of schools, somebody has got to stand up and say, this is a Democratic formula. They're trying to make you dependent in order to get your votes.
Well, Dr. Corsi, you're a delight and an inspiration. Thank you for writing the book. It's called What Went Wrong, the inside story of the GOP debacle of 2012. Check it out either with WorldNetDaily or Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Let's stay in touch. I really value our time together. And thank you for dedicating the book to Phyllis. She is an inspiration of herself, and I appreciate it. God bless you, my friend. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thanks for putting up with all the technical
problems. Oh, don't worry about it.
Getting...
That's live television, pal. Talk to you soon. Okay. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.